Mayor Mills, you're free to proceed.
I'm ready, Max. Thank you very much. Everybody, good morning. It is Wednesday, December 29th, 2021. This is a virtual special meeting of the City of Rehoboth Beach Commissioners. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 10 o'clock a.m. With that, I'll take roll call. Commissioner Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Sharp.
Here.
Commissioner Chernowski.
Here.
Commissioner Legree.
Here.
Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
And Mayor Stan Mills is here. We have a full complement and are formally able to conduct business today. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to thank all those that are watching remotely and being attentive to what we're doing. We appreciate that. I want to identify that no members of the public pre-registered to speak today, so there's no citizen comment offered today. And there's also no correspondence that has been identified for this meeting. The purpose of this special meeting is to consider a resolution authorizing the sale of up to $18 million in general obligation refunding bond for refunding of the 2016 bonds and authorizing all necessary action in connection therewith. Fancy language to say we're trying to refinance. With that, Sharon, I'd like to turn it over to you, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Just checking, we have Ms. Kelly on.
She is.
Looks like she's there.
Sharon, can you hear me?
Okay, great. And is Kevin on as well or not?
I don't believe I see Kevin on. No, I know he had another call scheduled for 10 o'clock.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And we have our Director of Finance, Mr. Dukes. Are you on, Bert?
I don't see him. I don't see him on.
Okay. Can someone get Mr. Dukes, please? Grant or Joe?
We're calling him right now.
Thank you. Okay, good morning again, Mayor and Commissioners. I hope you had a good holiday. Looking forward to the new year. So we have a special meeting today in order to review the proposals that were sent out and returned by 5 different banking institutions. We are working with our partners, Y River and Associates, Pamela Kelly, the Senior Vice President of Y River, and Kevin Quinn, who doesn't seem to be on today. But Bert and I went over the proposals with Ms. Kelly and Mr. Quinn yesterday. And as you'll see, Ms. Kelly will provide you some information that I think you'll find very favorable. We did get 5 responses to our request for proposals, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Pam, if you'll just provide the information to the commissioners, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine, Kelly. And I'll let you know that Bert Dukes has entered the room. He's here with me, and we'll be able to offer any comments.
Great. Good morning, Bert.
Thank you, Pam.
So I just wanted to quickly go through. We had walked through the results of the solicitation process yesterday with both Sharon and Bert in great detail. And I wanted to give a summary to the commissioners and to the group on this call. As you know, we went out with a competitive solicitation for lenders in early December for the refinancing of Series 2007 and the 2016 A and B bonds. The idea here was to solicit proposals for tax-exempt refinancing at lower interest rates that would provide the City of Rehoboth Beach with debt service savings. We went out to about 29 different lenders. We received 5 solid proposals from banks, including JP Morgan Chase, KeyBank, PNC Bank, Truist, and Community Bank of Delaware. The interest rates of these proposals ranged anywhere from 1.58% to 2.29%. JP Morgan Chase offered the most competitive interest rates and terms. And just to kind of backpedal a little bit, we tried to match the refinancing to the maturity of the existing bonds, which meant that we were hoping for proposals that went out to a maximum of 20 years. And based on early discussions, we decided to take a look at 15-year proposals as well, in the event that that was something that the city might be interested in as far as accelerating the debt service. JP Morgan offered 3 different proposal options, each with different interest rates. Each had 15-year terms and 15-year fully amortizing debt. The 3 different options really had to do with the prepayment options associated with each. Option 1 provided no prepayment at all of the debt for the full term of the financing. Option 2 provided a 5-year prepayment, which means that the debt would be prepayable in whole or in part after 5 years. And then the third provided a 10-year call option. The 10-year option is very similar to what you see in the capital markets. 10-year call options are very common and, in fact, in many instances considered standard for the municipal bond market. The interest rates associated with each, option 1, which was the no call option, was a 1.58%. Option 2, which was the 5-year call, was a 1.73%, and option 3, which had the standard 10-year call, was a 1.62%. The savings associated with each of these were in excess of 5% of the outstanding or refunded debt, if you will, and on a net present value basis ranged anywhere from $880,000 throughout the term of the financing to $1.1 million. After reviewing these 3 scenarios with Sharon and Bert, and after much discussion regarding the value of having the ability to perhaps prepay the bonds at some point in the future, therein providing flexibility to the city with future financing options and debt limits and things of that nature, it was agreed that option 3, which was at 1.62% interest rate for 15 years, and provided savings, net present value savings of just over $1 million, seemed to be the recommended, if you will, scenario. The total cash savings of that scenario over the 15 years would be approximately $1.76 million to the city. JP Morgan has agreed to lock in the interest rate of the 1.62%, assuming that their term sheet, which we've already gone back to them and made some minor edits to, assuming that the term sheet was executed by the city of Rehoboth Beach by 4:00 this afternoon. To the extent that the term sheet was not executed by that time, it would be subject to changes in the bank's cost of funds as we move forward. The timetable for completion, and again, this assumes that the term sheet is executed, in today or very much this week, is that we would continue with drafting of the financing documents. And as you know, Ballard Spahr is serving as bond counsel on this transaction, and has agreed to target January 21st as the closing of the bond financing. I had circulated a brief presentation that had 3 appendices attached, quite a bit more detail than what I just went over on a high-level basis. But Appendix A provides a lender prospect list, which is essentially our communications throughout the solicitation period with the various lenders. We would touch base with them. They would reach out to us with questions, which of course we would, reply with responses. And we would essentially reach out on a regular basis just to make sure that there's still interest and make sure that they're moving forward in their proposal process. So obviously at your leisure, please feel free to flip through that list. You can see what each of the banks had to say, whether they responded, and if not, what their reasoning for that was. Appendix B is a detailed comparative matrix of the proposals that we received. It essentially provides the key characteristics of each financing proposal from each bank in a more detailed basis. And then the final appendix, Appendix C, is JP Morgan Chase's term sheet as presented and I guess negotiated, if you will, which there wasn't a lot of negotiation. It was just that we noticed there was some typographical information. And one thing I did want to point out is after going back to them with a few minor edits yesterday, they came back and said, oh, well, we can definitely extend until 4 o'clock on the 29th as far as executing the term sheet. And in addition, our cost of funds has decreased in the 1 day. So they actually adjusted their term sheet by 1 basis point under each of the 3 scenarios. I think in a good faith effort, if you will. So that is it. That is the summary of the process. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Or if I spoke too quickly, please let me know, and I'd be happy to go back over any of that information.
Any questions by the commissioners? Commissioner Legree, you're muted. You're muted, Jay.
So what else is new in my life? It looks like the savings for callable, non-callable from Che is $100,000 over the period of the loan. Am I missing something? I'm just trying to decide if it's worth worrying about being callable or not callable.
That's a good question, and that is something that we stewed over yesterday. There is, between option 1 and option 3, for those following along, there is a 4 basis point difference between the 2 options, and that is, between not having the opportunity to prepay the debt at all in the future and having that opportunity after 10 years. And there is a difference in savings of, I guess it's about $60,000, if you will.
Okay.
We tossed it back and forth, and the reasons that you may want to maintain that flexibility in the future are, and granted, we have no horse in this race. I mean, really, this is a judgment call. But the reasons are, you'd like to maintain flexibility. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. We felt like 4 basis points was not a whole lot to maintain that flexibility. You may be brushing up against debt limits, for instance, and you may have a large project that the city is about to embark on, and that would provide some flexibility to be able to pay off that debt and continue with the financing. If you enter into another type of financing with a different lender, it's quite often easier just to work with the same lender, and you could roll that debt into it. So, it's a what if type of scenario, and it's a more conservative approach by, leaving a little bit of flexibility in your future, but it's entirely, of course, up to the city, as to what their preference is.
Oh, thank you very much. I working with Chase, and for a mere $60,000, I think, and we don't know what the future holds. I'm with you. I'm with the decision of the CFO and the city manager in their rec. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions by the commissioners? If not,
I guess, just one other, either to Bert or Sharon. just remind us what our current debt exposure is total and what our maximum allowable in the code is?
Bert, can you respond to that, please?
Yes. The debt limit for the city, 75 million. Currently, we're about 62 million. What's happening, we're reducing, but we're also drawing because we have the plant loan for the sewer plant. It was a $12 million loan. Right now, we've drawn about 5. So basically, we're gonna be about, we've got over $10 million spread between our maximum limit and the balance. But does that answer
Okay.
your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bert, if you can just comment, please, on the overall process and your feeling about this.
Well, I mean, the savings that Pam just went over sort of makes it a no-brainer. I feel good about the responses. I'm getting more sleep. I slept better last night, so that was good. But yeah, I support the 1.62. Saves the city quite a bit of money. And in a rising interest rate environment, which has been worrying me a little bit, I think we should go ahead and proceed and take out, complete the refinancing.
Okay, very good.
Commissioner
Thank you,
Legree.
Mayor.
I agree with Bert. My golly, with 1.62, the rate risk is dang near nothing. And I'm with Bert. Thank you.
Glenn, do you have the resolution in front of you?
I do, Mayor.
I hate to do this to you, but we did not get this embedded in the agenda, and I would like to read it. Have you read it, if you don't mind, please.
I will, but I think it is embedded in the agenda, though, isn't it?
It is.
But I'm happy to read it, though, Mayor. It's a big deal, so let me go ahead and do it.
All right.
So this is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $18 million general obligation refunding bond for refunding of the City of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware 2007 and 2016 general obligation bonds, and authorizing all necessary action in connection therewith. Whereas the commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach is authorized in sections 36 and 40 of Chapter 197, Volume 54 of the Laws of Delaware, as amended, to issue general obligation refunding bonds for the municipal purposes of the city as set forth in a resolution authorizing such issuance. And whereas pursuant to the city charter, the city desires to issue a general obligation bond for the municipal purposes set forth herein. Whereas the city desires to issue the bond for the sole and exclusive purpose of A, refinancing one, the approximately $15.42 million outstanding of the City of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware General Obligation Bond, City Hall Complex, Series 2016A, Community Facility Loan 97-03, and General Obligation Bond, City Hall Complex, Series 2016B, Community Facility Loan 97-04, together the 2016 USDA loan, and 2, the approximately $1.9 million outstanding of the City of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware General Obligation Bonds, Public Water Distribution Systems Project, Series 2007-SRF, and B, refunding the cost of issuance of the bond, and that's all collectively the project. Now, therefore, the City of Rehoboth Beach hereby ordains: 1, amount and purpose of the bond. Acting pursuant to the city charter, the city shall issue its general obligations in the maximum aggregate principal amount not to exceed $18 million to finance or refinance the cost of the project. The monies raised from the sale of the bond, including the investment earnings thereon, after the payment of the cost of issuance, shall be expended only for the purposes authorized herein, or as may otherwise be authorized by subsequent action by the commissioners. Authorized purposes include the financing or refinancing of the project, or any portion thereof, the cost of issuance of the bond and any interim financing, the repayment of temporary loans incurred with respect to the project, and the reimbursement of authorized costs previously expended by the city from other funds as applicable. 2, terms of the bond. The bond shall be sold to an approved lender. to be known as the lender, pursuant to a proposal dated on or about December 27, 2021, and the other terms and conditions to be contained in a loan agreement between the city and the lender. The bond is anticipated to bear interest at a fixed rate of interest not to exceed 2.375%, with a maturity date on or about December 31st, 2014. It is further anticipated that fully amortizing principal and interest will be paid quarterly on the 15th day of each calendar quarter, beginning on March 15, 2021, for 15 years, with a final payment of all amounts due and payable paid on the maturity date.
2022.
3, security for the bond. The full faith and credit of the city shall be pledged to pay principal and interest on the bond. 4, details of the bond. The mayor and treasurer are authorized to select the lender and determine the details of the bond, including the following: the date or dates of the bond, provisions for either serial or term bond, sinking fund or other reserve fund requirements, due dates of the interest thereon, the form of the bond, the denominations and designations of the bond, registration, conversion, and transfer provisions, provisions for the receipt, deposit, and investment of the proceeds of the bond, provisions for the replacement of a lost, stolen, mutilated, or destroyed bond, and provisions for issuing uncertificated obligations and all procedures appropriate for the establishment of a system of issuing uncertificated debts. The bond shall be executed by the manual or facsimile signature of the mayor and treasurer, shall contain an impression of the city seal or a facsimile thereof, and shall be attested by the manual signature of the city clerk. 5, declaration of intent. Pending issuance of the bond, the city may finance the project with other funds, which will be reimbursed with the proceeds of the bond, provided that A, the bond shall not be used to reimburse any expenditure paid more than 60 days prior to the present date. B, the bond shall not be issued more than 18 months after the later of first, the date of the first expenditure to be reimbursed with the proceeds of the bond, or 2, the date the project is placed in service. And C, in no event may the bonds be issued more than 3 years after the date of the first expenditure to be reimbursed with the proceeds of the bond, and provided further that the limitations of this section 5 shall not apply to qualified preliminary expenditures, costs of issuance of the bond, or de minimis amount as permitted by Treasury Regulations section 1.150-2F. 6, further action. Each of the mayor, the president of the city council, the treasurer, the city manager, and the city clerk are authorized and directed to take such other action on behalf of the city as may be necessary or desirable to effect the adoption of this resolution and the issuance and sale of the bond, and to provide for their security and to carry out the intent of this resolution, including the publication of notices and advertisements and the execution and delivery of customary closing certificates. 7, effective date. This resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption by the commissioners, and there's a signature block for the secretary of the commissioners.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you reading that. I think Bert and I identified one error. Page 2, under item 2, the first payment will be starting on March 15th, 2022. Is that correct? Rather than 2021.
That's right. That's an error.
With that correction, I'd offer Glenn, Sharon, or Bert, or Pam any more opportunity to comment. Hearing none, is there any further comment from the commissioners? If not, I would like to consider hearing a motion to adopt the resolution that's in front of us with the one corrected date on there. And whoever reads the motion, if you would read the entirety of the title of the motion, authorizing the issuance and sale, etc. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we authorize the issuance and sale of up to $18 million general obligation refunding bond for refunding of the city of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 2007 and 2016 general obligation bonds, and authorizing all necessary actions in connection therewith.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Sernowski and a second by Commissioner Sharp to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to 18 million general obligation refunding bond for refunding of the city of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 2007 and 2016 general obligation bonds, and authorizing all necessary action in connection therewith. Is there any further discussion among the commissioners? We've already identified that no citizens are signed up to talk. So with that, I will call the motion. We'll do a roll call vote.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question
Yes,
of
sir.
Glenn?
Go ahead.
Glenn, obviously the resolution is broad, and I think we all are in agreement with the Chase 10-year callable. But does that need to be part of the motion at all?
It doesn't need to be. It gives discretion for the mayor and the treasurer to make that decision. I think they've understood that the direction to go is the 1.62% 15-year JP Morgan Chase third option. So I think that's the direction they'll take. But to be clear, the resolution does give them discretion.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll just do a group vote, and if anybody wants a roll call vote, then we'll do that. All those in favor of adopting the resolution as read with the one amendment of the date from 2021 to 2022, signify by saying aye. Hold your hand up long enough, indicating aye for and to count. 1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who am I missing? Me.
You.
There we
Everybody's
go.
on voting yes.
Thank you. And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That's all for the business for today. We got you out in under 30 minutes. Appreciate y'all's time and being here. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 10:26 a.m. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Kelly?
Thank you. Happy New Year.